there was this question about like, oh, Saddiq will always say that he is clean, maybe corrupted because he got a bunch of cash in his...
I remember when I was informed I was charged. I got it from the news. I remember FMT said he posted, a young minister will be charged. I'm like, I didn't have time to get lawyers. I had to scramble calling. I was begging, please help me, please help me.
Today we have here in our studio a special guest, YB Syed Saddiq. Yeah,
It's a pleasure to be back.
He needs no introduction. You have been on our show a couple of times.
Yep.
And this time round is also the first interview per se after the whole court case incident and everything all. So I always find that whenever I have a politician on the seat, sometimes the conversation at the back is more exciting than the conversation at the front.
So let's try bring the conversation at the back to the front then.
That's right. I think the first thing that I want to ask you is definitely about your recent court case.
Sure.
Now, for the people out there who are watching this episode, I believe some of them actually are not sure of what's this whole court case about, unless they follow the news very closely. Because what I recall for most people was this: when this whole thing happened was when the transition of government, and then they say that they went to your office then in the youth's office and they found 5 million ringgit in cash there, something like that. Yeah,
bro,
that was
I don't know where you're getting this information.
But basically there was like that whole question of like they went to the office, they saw cash and maybe corrupted because he got a bunch of cash in his. Then it became like rumors, plus. I think it's best that you give people a picture of what is the real case behind.
Yeah. First and foremost, it's definitely 5 million cash. I don't know where this figure came from. I'll summarize it as simple as possible. Essentially, there are two different cases, both originating from parties' money and SOP. One was a fundraiser even before I became an MP, which was in 2018. And then one more was a withdrawal of 1 million ringgit of party funds in 2020. So these are the two origins of the charge. Both I did not benefit a single cent from. I think I know which one you're talking about, that police came to my house, which I lodged a report, mind you. And there's no police suddenly banging to the door. I lodged a report of money loss, me and my family. I'll be the most stupidest, not just politician, person on this earth to invite not just the police, including their CSI team, I don't know what your forensics team is called, to find a culprit if the money is illegal money. And the reason why there's absolutely no charge about that is because it's quite easy to know whether the money is legal or not if it's cash. How? Because whenever you want to withdraw more than 50,000 ringgit of cash, you need to get permission from the bank. And then the bank will state or ask why. It's not 5 million, not even close. It was 190,000 ringgit, me, my mom, my dad, my family. And then they even check what's the purpose. They check the withdrawal when I withdrew it from the bank, which originated from my salary. So that case was closed. What happened after was parties SOP of withdrawal. So that was the one. I mean, just to make it very, very clear. Allow me to summarize it as simple as possible. So the one which involved the fundraiser, which I had in 2018, they claimed that this is a party's fundraiser, not my fundraiser. That was the essential charge behind it. Even though at that point in time, my friend, anyone who follows the news will know, prior to 2018, Bersatu was banned. That's why if you realize we couldn't use Bersatu's flag, we used PKR's flag. Why? Because 2 months before election, our party was banned. So I don't know how, in the right state of mind, could anyone say this is a party's fundraiser. Above and beyond that, the one who organized the fundraiser was me and my friends. It was my military college's friend who came as well. And not just that, I withdrew my own money, spend my own money. I proved with receipts. You can't lie with receipts, right? I spent more than 170,000 ringgit on my own money because to organize a fundraiser, you'll have to book a place, buy food and beverages.
Yep.
You need to have a sound system, an MC and everything else. All I use my own money. I have to pay my stuff using my own money. And they say, oh no, this is party's money, not yours. That's one. That's the essential 3 charges there. The other one is a 1 million ringgit withdrawal. And this is the part which to me is even more mind-boggling. The claim there is that whenever you want to withdraw party's money, you need to go through the Supreme Council of the party. Even though I'm not just part of the Supreme Council, this is the youth wing. We agreed that money should be withdrawn for COVID. Of that 1 million, 0 ringgit went to me. This is where people confuse. Oh, some money was found in your house. No, as what has been established in court, every single cent of that 1 million didn't even go to me. It was expensed, it was spent. It was even safeguarded by different Armada leaders, not even me. And it was spent for COVID, for Bantuan Ramadan and Raya. But the claim they're saying, doesn't matter, even if it's spent for good reasons, even if you didn't get it, but in the end, the withdrawal didn't go to Supreme Council. And the contention which I put up, which was even corroborated by many different Bersatu leaders since the birth date of Bersatu in 2016 until the day I was expelled. Absolutely 0 number of times where any withdrawal party money went through Supreme Council, whether it was done by Tun Dr. Mahathir, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, name it, anyone. But I, Syed Saddiq, go through a different kind of criteria apparently, even though this is Armada, not even Bersatu. So essentially, that's the two things. If I were to go into super nitty-gritty details, it would be very, very long.
Right.
But in summary, the reason why I was very, very confident, again, is because I thought, okay, one is I did a benefit from it. At the same time, this has nothing to do with taxpayers' money, my position as a minister, corruption money, giving percentage. I thought, okay, it's party SOP. Party SOP at that point in time was not even very clear. So I thought, okay, I'm fairly confident. But when the conviction came in, obviously, I was shocked. But at the same time, while I was shocked, I know in order to fight the good fight, I will go through many shocks in my life. But will those shocks weaken me? Never. I will keep on fighting onward.
Let's talk a little bit about the whole idea of this corruption thing. Because when I went down the street, when I talked to different people, a few comments that came up that I thought is good to just bring it up and then see what kind of answer you have to give us, right? The first common thing is they'll say, hey, but he has that ASB thing, right? Like he bought ASB with the money.
Sure. I'd love to respond to that.
So what's your response to that?
Okay, very simple. And this way I read comments. Actually, I read comments on my social media on my own. It's not like I delegate it to others. So I keep on seeing this ASB comment. They keep on saying, money found in your house, that's party's money, and then you put it into your ASB in 2020.
That's right.
Which I'm like, guys, literally if you follow the case, it's so easy to identify where it's from. That was not even when I was a minister, not even an MP. It was prior to election in 2018, I told you. The fundraiser in 2018. So they said, after election, then 50,000 ringgit, 2 batches, entered your ASB's account. But what they did not mention, again, but this was established in court, is that right before that fundraiser, I spent my own ASB money. I withdrew my own ASB money. I mean, again, I just told you, we organised 2 fundraisers, not small ones. One in De Palma Hotel and one more in the largest hall in Muar. You think it's cheap? Established in court just to organise one of the fundraisers, rental, 30,000 ringgit. Because you need to give food, beverages to more than 50 tables. And at the same time, with receipts, how much I spent? In court, established with receipts, 170,000 ringgit. So they want to talk about 50,000 ringgit. I withdrew money from my own SB right before. So I mean, it's that basic. But again, I do not want to question the ability of the judge to decipher. And I think that's why I am in appeal. And I'm here to talk my side of the story. And I'm not here to besmirch the judiciary. But I have to share what happened in court.
That's right.
So whenever people say, ASB, I'd really like them to see, have you actually followed the facts of the case where I drew my own money, I spent my own money, I took up a loan, and let's not kid ourselves. You really think the cost of an election is 50,000 ringgit? Seriously. And I'll stop there. Yeah. And This was, mind you, way before elections. I'll be the most, again, stupidest politician ever if in the end, I let go of 2 full scholarships to go to Oxford University, which is worth 1 million ringgit, to in the end destroy my political career by taking 50,000 ringgit in 2 batches. Seriously. 100,000 ringgit, 1 million, and not just that, I lost my job as a lecturer, as a researcher, as an officer to a minister. I was no longer allowed to teach anymore, debating and public speaking. All of that for what?
50,000 ringgit.
Of party's money. Before I became a minister, before I became an MP. Seriously.
So for me also, when a lot of people ask me, because they know you've been on the interview, and they say, hey, what do you think? What do you really think? This is what I honestly tell everyone. Definitely, I do not know because I'm not you, right? Logically speaking, without looking at whether do I like you, do I believe in you, nothing of that. Let's just weigh out the numbers.
Yeah.
If want to makan also not 50,000 lah. That's my opinion lah.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean 50,000, bro. Minister's salary that time already.
Yeah.
Already. What so?
And I just want to share this as well. Before election, mind you, this was in 2018. This was not when I was a minister or as an MP. People thought then, Tun Daim, Tun M, Tan Sri Muhyiddin gave me millions to fund my elections. And I've said this in court and also in the new book which I will be publishing. The party didn't help. Initially they said they will help out. They didn't. I had to fundraise on my own. I had to take up loan. I had to beg from my family and my friends to help out. Right? And that was my very first election. And they knew how much I sacrificed even before that. With my 2 scholarships, with many losses of income. And I didn't complain. But to the end, to say that, I can be corrupted by 50,000 ringgit. I mean, to me, that's just mind-boggling. But whether it's out of technicality or not, I will fight it out.
Right.
Because I know in the end, they will be judges who will see my side of the story, who will understand after analysing it that my conscience and my principles and my integrity can never be bought.
Right. Let us move on to another common complaint or common response
Sure.
that we hear people talk about. They say that over the years, when you look at the banjir, these kind of things, Syed Saddiq has been raising fund. And we asked him for all the audit, but all the audit tak keluar. So must be something there, right? Yeah.
Sure.
So what's up with all this audit?
Okay.
Yeah.
Separate both. One is my own fundraisers, and then at the same time, MUDA. I want to separate these two. For my own ones, let's say for an example, the fundraisers I did for my constituency in Muar. Despite not needing to do it, we worked together with Ernst & Young to do a full good governance review of the process. And I think we are the only constituency in Malaysia to ever do that. Above and beyond that, when I moved out of principle from government to opposition, this was when I was minister, then from Bersatu to then being a Lone Ranger in 2020. They sent everyone to audit my office, Muar, right? Because every year there's already an annual audit of your constituency funds. They found absolutely no problems whatsoever. So on top of the good governance review, there's a yearly audit done at every single constituency's office. Above and beyond that, I also declared not just, usually audit, okay, it's clear, or good governance review is clear. I also shared how much was received. Some was cash, some is in kind. Not only that, recipients, who were the recipients, all of that was published. And I think on that, no one questioned. I think you're referring to Banjir, MUDA.
Yep.
Correct? So mine, I think I just want to share, is done. And I think this is above and beyond what other constituencies or officers would do. Then comes MUDA. Let's look at the facts very clearly. Number one, when was Banjir? Do you remember? 2020? End of 2020, early 2021.
Yes.
When was MUDA registered? 2022, January. Okay. This was way before MUDA's registration. So at that point in time, before MUDA's registration, we had to work with multiple NGOs fundraising together for Misi Banjir. Correct? Because this was end of 2020, early 2021, about 1 year before MUDA was fully registered. With that in mind, obviously, and as you would remember, the Misi Banjir is not like a 1 month, 2 months exercise.
Yes.
Why? We not only gave out laptops, tablets, cleaning, giving a free cleaning of houses. We also built houses. I mean, actual physical concrete houses, which would take about 6 months to a year. And as you would know, and you run your own business as well, you usually close it 1 year, 1 year and a half after, especially after the project is done.
Yep.
So that comes mid of 2022. And when we close it, that's where we start working with different auditing firms. We are working with one of the best auditing firms, and that's where they want to collect everything, receipts, etc. We have already worked with them. We've shared all the documents which we have. Where does the complication lie? The complication lie because in 2020, 2021, MUDA was not registered. So
That's
we
right.
had to get all the other NGOs who we've worked with, all the documentations years ago. And above and beyond that, people think, oh, it's been 2-3 years. No, the accounts closed about close to end of 2022. Because only after the building of the houses, the projects were done, then we closed it. Then we had to collect all the documents. And then we submit it for proper auditing to be done. And that's where we're at. So for people to ask, you must do it. We are not the auditors. We passed it, and then we see what else is needed. So that was where that's where we are at today.
Right. So I suppose people will definitely be, those who are skeptics will definitely ask this question,
Sure.
which is, why didn't you explain this whole process?
We did. Okay, just before I stepped down, late last year, we actually do a quarterly update. We actually call a press conference. If you look it up, I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. I remember then the media covered it because we did a press conference updating 2 things. Number one, how much we fundraise and how we spend during the state elections, and then secondarily updating about the audit for Misi Banjir. I just want to share. Number one, name me one other party which update. For example, audits of their activities and also of their party funds when it comes to elections. Just name me one.
None.
Exactly. We showed it, but again, it's never enough. Even when we showed, for example, for our state election funds, we said per constituency we spend, I think, close to 30,000 ringgit. We even explained where the money came from all the activities. Again, people only nitpick one. Oh, it's just through otak-otak. No, we shared, there were like tons of activities done by multiple different cawangan of MUDA to do it. And then we also showed how the money was spent, which in the end people realized 60% is at logistics, which is to buy flags, planting it, getting the banner, buntings, and then collaborating with volunteers who obviously need places to stay at. We were the only party who did that. And above and beyond that, we also shared the updates of where we're at when it comes to audit banjir. Again, I think we have been doing it quite regularly. Some may choose not to accept, which I think is perfectly understandable, and MUDA should be open to criticism. But for those who say, you stole the money, I mean, seriously, guys, ask your parties whether you actually uphold yourself to these standards. And second, if you steal even a single cent of public's money, why don't you go to MACC, police, LHDN, anyone? I mean, please do so, because we have nothing to hide.
Is there any place that they can download all these kind of audit reports or anything like that? Is the Banjir report fully out yet?
For mine, I remember I shared it in public. I'm pretty sure if you go to my social media, you'll find it. But this is for my office. For MUA, secondarily for Misi Pilihan Raya, I think that's. I remember we made it public as well. The media reported it. I think Malaysia Kini reported it quite well and extensively. We also shared. I remember then there was a PDF document, 8-10 pages explaining. And then for Misi Banjir, that's where we share the documents directly with the auditors. But to show, even without waiting for the auditors to show the quarterly update, a lot of it is online. For example, basic expenditure of where the money goes to, how much we raised, how many donors, does it only come from 1 or 2 donors, as what some said. In the end, MUDA is a party paid by tycoons, but then we also showed that more than 50,000 people donated with an average contribution of 48 ringgit. And we also showed where the money goes to, how many items we bought, how many houses we built, how many electronical equipments we bought post-floods. I think that's all there.
All right. Yeah, so I remember all that because I know some of the staff, and then I have your number, and we keep in touch and stuff like that. So the fact I know, it's just that I realized that a lot of people don't know. That's for one. So until today, I remain the same, whether you see in the Are We Okay podcast or anything. I always think that many of the government bodies and many of the parties need to do better communication on social media, which I think that you've already done very well. But on the other hand, I guess some of these news are not as sexy. Yeah, so media outlets pick up it a lot lesser. Yeah, and then the algorithm doesn't pick it up. The way is you guys' fault lah. We are normal people fault lah. We like sensational news.
But I have to put it out there that we should be open to this level of criticism, because to aspire to higher standards and to turbocharge Malaysia forward, we do expect this kind of criticisms. We definitely can and should do better in terms of explaining it to the public and expediting the process. However, that in no way means that a criticism is not warranted. It is.
Yes.
I just hope that the same will also be shared to other parties as well.
Yes. I also heard that because it's for the audit side, because it's pro bono, so definitely it's not like super fast in that sense.
Correct.
Right?
I mean, the difference was, for example, when I did it for my office, payment was made. So that's where you notice the process was actually relatively quick. But for MUDA, being, I think, the poorest party in Malaysia, maybe with PSM, we do almost everything pro bono. And that pro bono period definitely takes a lot more time, because it's not easy for a big firm to assign paid staff, professionals, to help us and what more to expedite it. But we are still indebted to those who help us regardless.
Let us move on to your court case again.
Sure.
Right. On that day, I remember just a few days before that, we had a chat. I said, how do you feel about it? Were you confident? And you told me that you were very confident, right? Like that, everything seems fine.
I remember that.
And when the news broke, a lot of people were shocked.
Yeah.
And how was it like for you that day, standing at the stand and being very confident just before that, and suddenly you just...
Bro, just let me put it this way. I'm trying my best to depict how I felt. But before I show you how I felt, I also must show you what happened before. Before I was charged, this was in 2021, the most painful moment was not the day when I was charged. The most painful moment was the about 1 year of investigation before I was charged. The uncertainty. Because for that whole 1 year from 2020, when I took the principled move to reject ministerial positions, GLC chairmanships, mind you, if I get a GLC chairmanship, there's so much more than this 50,000 ringgit lah. Okay. Then I put that aside. When I rejected, then came the investigation. For 1 year, not just to me, my mum, my dad, my siblings, my friends, everyone, because they just didn't believe that I did not have offshore accounts. I did not have properties or assets which is above and beyond my grade of payment, because it's quite easy to know whether someone's corrupted. You check assets, value, and income. If it doesn't match, then you investigate. And if they didn't believe I didn't have, then check, maybe I give it to my parents. Parents didn't have, siblings didn't have, friends. And in the end, nothing. But that went on for 1 year, bro. I got investigated, I think, by almost every single enforcement agency in Malaysia you can think of. They even, some things mentioned LHDN to my parents. And then MACC. And then PDRM. There are others, which I think in other conversations I'll share, which is more moral and religious in nature. But I went through the whole, let's put it, catalogue of enforcement agencies. And for 1 year, I thought, oh my God, if you want to charge me. Because I was that confident. And the day where I was charged, I remember when I was informed I was charged. I didn't know from my MACC's officers. I got it from the news. I remember FMT said, he posted, a young minister will be charged. I'm like, ex-minister. I'm like, who else? And only that, I remember there's another friend of mine who was there who have connections and told me, Saddiq, you'll be charged. I'm like, no lah. And then that's where I got the call. This was the night before. Mind you, I didn't have time to get lawyers. I mean, because it was the night before, I think that was like 10 p.m. and I had to appear in court at 8:30. I had to scramble calling, who can help. And I had to prepare my bail money. I don't know how much bail money. I was begging, please help me. Because again, I don't have this sudden miraculous amount of money in an offshore account where I can give me. I don't have that. But I remember when that moment came, I knew I was to be charged. It was serenity. It's weird. It's a very weird thing to explain, but it gave me a sense of direction. It's like, finally, I'll fight this out and I know I will win it. Because I am not corrupted and I'll never be corrupted. And I remember that gave me a sense of confidence. That 1 year was hell. After I was charged, it was like happiness, weirdly. I don't know how to explain it. But yeah. And then came the night before the decision came in. To show how confident I was. And again, obviously the lawyers told me many things. And I'm quite blessed with good lawyers. Gobin, Haijan, Wejat, Dato' Amiga. These are people who are very kind. So I mean, besides them, be very confident. But I myself, put the lawyers aside. I know what I did. I know what happened before elections. And I know what the money was spent for. So that's why I was very confident. So much so that the night before, people usually free up their time. I was hosting guests from abroad. I was hosting the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Singapore, Sir George Sheo, someone who I really look up to. I was hosting the Singaporean ambassador to Malaysia, Sir Vanu, and the wife and the family, and my parents were there, and we were having a good conversation. And I wasn't really thinking about the court case. I thought, tomorrow will go very well. Very confident. I'm fairly certain because my case, mind you, has been dragged on not because of me. I've been wanting to expedite it. I finished my case, everything, April 10th last year. April 10th. It took months before decision, and now, until today, while waiting for appeal, we haven't gotten a written judgment. So it's taking, more than a year?
There's still no written judgment.
No, more than a year. Since I closed my case, April 10th, more than a year. And it's not me, mind you. We've done everything. So that was my state of mind then. Now allow me, I've shared with you the background. Now, what happened that day? So I've been very confident. I remember that morning, my parents were there, my family, my MUDA friends, non-MUDA friends, including Bersatu leaders. Mind you, this is a Bersatu issue, were there. So I thought, okay, went in, and I remember when the judge came in and asked me to stand up while waiting for the decision. And then I was like, oh, okay. Alhamdulillah, in my mind I was just praying a little bit. And then suddenly the decision, it was very quick, mind you. It just came, you're found guilty of all offences. In my mind, I really thought I was dreaming. Let me just put it, I really thought I was dreaming because, mind you, again, the context which I shared before, and me being the super idealistic Syed Saddiq, right? I'm like, come on, this kind of things only happen in movies, right? So I was like, am I dreaming? I said, no, it's real. And then I was looking behind, I was looking at my family, I was looking at my friends, and we were all in shock. Some of my family members were crying. But I thought, at that very moment, to be very honest, I don't know whether survival instincts or not, that actually strengthened my resolve to fight on. It's a very weird thing. It's a very weird moment. But I remember that moment is the same moment I got when I told you I got charged. Where is a sense of relief, which is very weird. I don't know how to explain it. Some people will be devastated, they'll fall down, they'll collapse. But for me, it's that sudden sense of serenity and relief. Because I knew that there's a lot more which I need to do to change the direction of this country, to bring the reforms which are needed, to know that this struggle is beyond me and what I want. And that, yes, it will come with sacrifices. That the truth may be delayed. That the truth may not win today. But it will win tomorrow. If not tomorrow, next month. If not next month, next year. If not the next 10 years. But I know that the truth will win one way or another. So that was the instinct which I immediately got. One thing which I just want to show, which many people did not know that day, which actually increased my sense of strength and perseverance, is that many people just thought, but then the punishment got postponed pending appeal. I just want to just briefly explain what happened in court. And while I say all of this, I want to repeat again. I'm not here to disrepute the court or the judge. That's not me. I've always been a believer in the judiciary. Mind you, when there were barrages of attack against specific judges who came up with very sensitive decisions, I came up in defense of it. And that's why I'm not here to disrepute the judge or the judiciary. That's why I believe in the appeal process up until the federal court. I want to make that very clear first. But let me just briefly explain what happened in court that day. Is that when the decision was right, I thought, okay, then maybe there will be a judgment. Judgment will explain why. What wrong did I do?
A written judgment posed the case.
Even if there's no
why
written
you were
judgment,
guilty, right?
an oral, or they call it a skeletal judgment, explain.
Right.
In general, okay, this is a technical offense. You may have good intentions, you may have spent all the money on the party, it didn't go to you. However, you should have gotten permission. It's still a...
Yeah, like the reason why.
At least there'll be closure. Or for example, they said 50,000 ASB account. I said, yeah, you would have spent your own money first, but you need to get, let's say, I don't know, this special permission to reclaim it back or something like that, I mean, so that there will be closure. So I know. But then after, it's just the punishment, which was obviously, as you know, like 7 years. I'm like, 7 years? I mean, that obviously got me a little bit, caught me a little bit by surprise. And then two whipping, and then it just ended. I mean, and then I remember my lawyers and also the esteemed deputy public prosecutor asking, so when will the written judgment be out? And then it was mentioned it will be out in 1 week time. So I'm like, okay, I mean, at least I'll have to wait for 1 week. But that history today has been a really, really long time. It's been a few months. But again, I just want to show what went through my mind that day. But what many people didn't know is that at that day, then we also got a very technical, let me explain, it's called a stay of execution and a stay of conviction. A stay of execution and conviction means that you don't get punished until appeal, and the stay of conviction means that even the conviction gets postponed. So I didn't expect to get the stay of conviction, to be honest, but we got both. So then I thought, okay, everything will be okay. And then it was very quick. I'm telling you, it was a very quick thing, just a few minutes, done. And then everyone was heading out. I was consoling my family, my friends. But I was actually, to some extent, I wouldn't say in a great mood, but not as bad as I thought it would be. And just as I was about to walk out, suddenly I was stopped saying, no, you can't walk out. You have to pay the 10 million now. If not, you have to go to jail. I'm like, wait, what? I said, but I thought just now we got the stay of execution. I said, yeah, you got the stay of execution, but the judge didn't specify what. It can be on the whipping, it can be on the prison sentence, but the fine you need to pay now, 10 million. I'm like, what? At that point in time, again, survival instinct kicked in. I'm like, don't even bother. I don't have this 10 million. Again, even if I amass my whole family's wealth, we won't have 10 million. Even if we had sold all our assets in one day, we will not have 10 million. I don't come from a rich family. I come from a lower middle income family. My mom is a teacher. My father did many different odd laborious jobs in Singapore. I mean, we don't have that. Even for me, as a former minister, people think, and I know many people who I see think, I have all these assets, houses, stored abroad. I don't. I really don't. So immediately at that moment, I called my parents, I hugged them, I say, because they didn't know what happened. My lawyers already went out. They were out already. To be fair, I can't blame them because they heard what I heard. Even the esteemed deputy public prosecutor left already, and I heard he was already in his car. So I don't blame any one of them. I think maybe there was miscommunication somewhere. So I just told my parents, I hugged them, I said, really sorry, but this just happened. I can't pay the 10 million. I know you can't. We all can't. So don't bother. Never mind. I'll go in. Just help me get a few things. I was prepared. I was asking for books for me to read, and then just to do a few things to call my MUDA leader so that I can tell them what's the next edition for me in the party. And I was ready. I mean, at that point in time, to be very honest, I mentioned just now about the moment of serenity. It got even more clearer. It's very weird. I mean, it's very hard for me to explain it, but at that moment I thought, okay, because try to remember when the decision came in, there's no written judgment, no oral judgment. I don't know why. What did I do wrong? What? I mean, how am I a criminal for doing what I did? So that was still, and there's still uncertainty surrounding me. But then I knew next step of action now. So there's a little bit of certainty there. I mean, clearly they don't want me to be out. They want me to go in immediately. If they think that this will break me, it will not. So they just said, please call the lawyers. I remember the lawyers going, they were furious because this is all recorded, right?
Yeah, man.
They were furious. Said, no, you got the stay of execution, stay of conviction. And I think they called the DPP. I think some of them were quite sympathetic as well. I'll leave it at that. But many people were shocked. They didn't know. Even the media was shocked them because they thought, oh, stay of execution, conviction, it will be postponed.
Yeah, you should be going home.
Yeah. So then there's a little bit of commotion, which took a while to be resolved.
Right.
Some of the DPPs came back. My lawyers came back, seeked on an audience with the young Arif. And then after a while, finally, I was allowed out. Took a little bit of time for me to explain this. I just want you to capture how I felt. Yeah, so that was exactly what happened that day. And I knew what to do. Immediately after, I took the principled path, stepped down from the presidency of MUDA. Wasn't an easy decision, but in the end, MUDA is much larger than Syed Saddiq. And if I really believe strengthening institutions in Malaysia, if I truly believe that Malaysia deserves good leaders with integrity, whether it is the truth or not, Malaysia is much bigger than me. I mean, much bigger than me. It is okay for me to take a step back to clear my name before deliberating on the way forward.
Did fear ever sank in at any point of time? Like, wow, I'm not just the youngest minister, but I'm now the first ex-minister that ever get a sabatan. Because I think that was the most shocking thing, right? Wow, sabatan for an ex-minister. That is, I mean, even when you take 2.6
billion, not million.
Yeah. So so did it ever sunk in like, wow? And at that moment, you literally were like, now this is no more a joke.
Yeah.
I'm really gonna go in if I can't pay this 10 mil.
Correct.
And chances are it looks like I'm gonna go in.
Yeah.
So did it ever sunk in like?
I mean, to say that it didn't, it would be a big lie. Obviously, when I heard of the sentencing, which came as a package, I was like, wait, what? I mean, I thought I misheard it a few times. I kept asking my lawyers, like, did
I hear wrongly?
Yeah. I see a lot of people focusing a lot more on the whipping. I was actually focusing a lot more on the time. I'm like, wait, what? I don't know, maybe because, okay, this is very weird, not to say that I've been whipped a lot of times, but throughout my life, especially when you are brought up in a very strong household with an INAD, at the same time going to military school, facing a lot of things, that's not the priority. The priority then, in my mind, to be very frank and honest, what will happen to my future? Can I still fight this good fight? In my mind then, before that sense of serenity I shared, when I knew of the direction, immediately I thought, man, is this even worth it? I mean, I was immediately reversing back to myself in 2018. I mean, I let go of 2 scholarships, which is worth 1 million ringgit. I lost almost all my sources of income fighting the good fight. I mean, what people say prior to 2018, that was it. And then there was a great sense of uncertainty 2018. And then to be punished this way over handling of party funds, which I did not benefit from. To me, at that point in my mind, I thought, what is going on? I mean, again, that's where I shared, it's more, is this a dream or not? If what I faced for the past few years does not prepare me for that day, then I'm kidding myself thinking that the road ahead will be easy. I mean, when you fight, you will face resistance. And if you cannot take the heat, leave it. I will never ever give up on my country.
At the point when all this happened, you ask yourself this question, right? Was it worth it? Because you could have been in a much better place. But at this point, you're not even talking about just say not given post or anything. You're talking about 7 years of jail time, 2 whipping, right? Did it cross your mind like maybe you should have just been smarter? Because there's this particular comment that I think
political
even in your
acumen.
social media, people wrote there, Saddiq, don't be an idealist. You know the world of politics. Why do you choose to fight against the system?
I mean, I remember there's this, it's a side thought. It didn't dominate my mind then because there were too many things, but there was a side thought then. Again, allow me to share exactly how I felt in November, because this is November last year. At that point in time, people who I thought were very principled, leaders of integrity, knowing that there are red lines to draw, they forgot about the red lines, threw principles down the drain, let go of multiple corruption charges worth hundreds of millions for clinging on to power. The same people who I harbored a lot of hope in, who I fought for. So at that point in time, I was already like, what the hell have I done from 2020 onwards? Because let's not forget, in 2020, I was in a very comfortable position. I was a minister. I was offered to be a minister again. And after that, offered to become a chairman of a GLC. I had all my allocations. Mind you, an allocation a year is 4 million. Total that up in 5 years, that's 20 million ringgit. Pure allocations, not even plus all the other perks. And I decided then, no, my ex-party didn't do a good thing. I thought I disagreed with the Sheraton move. And I defended this so-called principled group. I lost my ministerial position, got threatened. I had to fundraise for my own constituency because that 20 million was deprived. And I thought that was a principled path because I was with a principled group. But then again, after last election, and I witnessed, oh my God, it's just about the same. Heck, actually it's worse. Why? Because at least my ex-party or my ex-boss, even when he was pressured to the corner, he could have easily just, never mind, dropped the criminal charges. He would have gotten the support again and continued to become the Prime Minister. But he didn't. I mean, no matter what people want to say, he didn't do that. Till the point that he lost him the Prime Ministerial position. But today, the same leaders who I backed up, who I thought was very principled, even without being threatened, with a clear majority. Previously, the previous Prime Minister only had 2 to 3 additional majority. Today is a 2/3 majority. Huge majority. I mean, even if 20 MPs leave, you still have a majority. Even without being threatened, never mind. Cut political deals. Forget about principles and integrity. While all that's happening, I put so much at stake. I'm about to face prison time. For what? That definitely went through my mind. I'm thinking, oh my God, I should have just kept quiet. You know, in the end, it's all about the same. Bring that change from within. That was there. However, the reason why I call it a side thought, you have to step out from that. Because what is Malaysian politics? Is Malaysian politics only a battle between personalities? Former Prime Minister, current Prime Minister, among political parties? No, it's not. Malaysia is much bigger than that. It is about the 30 million, now 32 million Malaysians who are earning day to day, wanting to live a good life, wanting to work hard and build a future out of merit, wanting to ensure that even if you're born in an underprivileged family, with hard work, you can be just as successful as a son or daughter of a billionaire. I know that's the future of Malaysia. So why am I so distracted by the fact, maybe I should not have sacrificed for this leader, or maybe I should have just played safe? All of that is just a side story. Do not lose sight on that 32 million people. Do not lose sight of what Malaysia could be with the right formula. And I think that's where immediately the side story went away.
There are some people who don't really see it as something too bad. You're not shaking up things too much, and you're slowly making changes, understanding which hornet's nest not to poke, right? Because even if you poke it, it may cause a serious reaction.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Sheraton move. Because that also gave many Malaysians a background of how was it like when PH first took over, and then they really poked the hornet's nest, right? And then Sheraton move happened. So is it worth it? Because maybe to a certain extent, your idealism is not something that's truly appreciated.
Understood. If at such a young age, I already sacrificed my idealism, my principles, my belief, my values, I think I am setting a horrible precedent for future leaders to come. That's one. Two, in life there must be red lines. Why was there a people's uprising in 2018? Because they believed in that future. And they know that at times there will be compromises and sacrifices, but in the end there are some things which you don't sacrifice and compromise on. Today, people say it's okay to normalize corruption. I want to say people, some of the elites say it's okay to normalize corruption as long as it brings stability. Would you say the same to the same group who you oppose today in 2020? If they were to drop criminal corruption charges, would you say the same? In the end, I realize it's just, to some, it's just a political game. If I'm given a chance, I'll do it. But my opponents can't. But where are we taking a country to? Where are we taking the country? In the 1980s, we were neck to neck with South Korea. Heck, at one point in time, South Korea was behind us. Now, one South Korean is equivalent to, 9 Malaysians. Because they're much richer, much more prosperous. Their soft political power in the global community is much more than us. Forget about South Korea. Look at our friend, our neighbor, Singapore. How far they've become with strong grit and determination and integrity to move their country forward. We are so far behind. I mean, their GDP per capita, it's 15 times more than us. Again, forget that whenever a global leader comes to this region, Southeast Asia, back then Malaysia will be the country of choice. Now they'll just surpass us. People talk about, Taylor Swift. No, forget Taylor Swift for a while. Even global leaders, presidents, deputy presidents, they'll come to Singapore and they'll skip Malaysia. Now they'll come to Singapore, go to Indonesia, go to Thailand, skip Malaysia.
Vietnam.
Yeah, correct, Vietnam. Biden with Vietnam twice. Malaysia, 0. So, sure, if Malaysians want us to be in the middle, stuck in the middle, I don't think we'll be a failed state. But I'm pretty sure we have better aspirations. We want to be a developed country. We want to have a world-class education system. We want to ensure that even if you're born poor with hard work, you can succeed. And you can be as successful as someone who comes from a rich family. But it's about building that world requires sacrifices. So sure, if it means sacrificing 1-2 people, including myself, let it be. But I know deep down, my conscience is clear and I'm happy. Happiness is very subjective. Right? I mean, some people may want all the, to be honest, I don't know what's the name of all these expensive things. Some people take happiness in that. I take happiness in a very different way. To be honest, now, in terms of income, I'm very happy. I don't need to have all this because, I can do my sports. I'm happy. I'm doing a lot of sports. I have my family who loves me and I love them. And at the same time, I know that I'm making a difference. In the smallest of ways, I can make a difference. And making that difference to me is the most meaningful happiness ever.
The whole realization that you had and you were able to snap out of it and say that this is just a side thought. I understand from my conversation with many of your teammates, they mentioned that right after the court judgment, they didn't see much reaction from you, but they knew that you were thinking a lot and you were very quiet for a very long period of time. So was that process to come to realization and redecide and say, okay, this is still going to be my mission? One day thing, or was it took a period of time for you to really kind of stick it back into yourself?
I remember immediately after I got out of court, I knew where I would want to go. But at the same time, I do not want to be arrogant enough into thinking that I'm always right. It takes a long consultation process. And this time around, it's not just about me. I have to speak to my family. I have to speak to my close friends. I have to speak to my allies. I also have to speak to my enemies. I want to be a lot more measured and consultative. I'm quite privileged to have great friends and family in particular, who stood by my side despite all the turbulences. And really, that's where you realize it's not about one person, right? It's really a collective. Because, yeah, your pillar may fall, but other pillars may lift you up. So that's where it took a little bit of time to recompose, recalibrate, before finally moving forward again. But did I consider of quitting, of just throwing the towel? There were occasions, but in the end I keep on asking myself. I have a letter which I write to myself when I first got into politics, which I keep on referencing to whenever I'm going through a period of turbulence. Why did I join? I keep on asking myself, why did I join? Did I join because I want to be a minister? Did I join because I want to hold the powers of Malaysia? No, because I want to make a meaningful difference. Knowing that meaningful differences will lead to tough obstacles, undeniably. I mean, a meaningful difference means that it will be tough. I must never ever forget that in the end, that meaningful difference is worth it. And that journey, no matter how treacherous it may be, is a journey which I need to learn to enjoy.
Thank you very much for your honest sharing. We're going to take a quick break, and later when we come back, we are going to talk about some juicy opinion of yours of the current government. Hey everyone, if you're interested in how policy, governance and economics relates to people like you and me, go and check out our latest podcast, Are We OK?, hosted by myself and Dr. Ong Kian Ming, an ex-deputy minister and ex-MP in Malaysia. Subscribe to the channel here or search it up on whatever podcast platform you are using. In the current lineup of government, who is your favorite minister?
I don't think there's just one. I like a couple of initiatives done by a few ministers.
All right.
Previously, when Nick was in charge of climate change, I think now he's been moved to a different ministry. I think he did quite a lot of good reforms there. I think Energem today, which is the energy exchange, which allows for export of renewable energy, which originated when it was there, was a very good idea. I like Hannah, especially when she pursued for EPF for athletes. It's just that one thing I keep on cautioning is to ensure that the taxman will not go after our athletes and ex-athletes. That was a concern before. Once you look at salary and not incentives. I think there are a few other initiatives which she did, which I thought was really good. Subsidizing swimming as a sport to ensure that our children will be in. I obviously like the likes of Khalid Nordin, now as Minister of Defence. I mean, quite good things. I'll be talking about quite a number of things in Parliament about this. So I think it's bits and pieces in different ministries, instead of just saying there's like one minister which is the best, because in the end it's not just a minister, but I think it's about the initiatives which are pushed forward. So to say that there are no good things, there are good things. But I think overwhelmingly there are also issues which the government should resolve.
If there's one thing they wish the current government would tackle, I mean aside from reforms and stuff like that, which we'll get into a more heavier subject soon, what would it be?
If there's only one.
Yeah, if there's only one, except the reform part, yeah? Like if let's say there's any things, policy matters that should be implemented.
It's very hard to just say, okay, so it's not just one, but it's under one common theme.
Okay.
Which is decentralizing power to strengthen institutions. Because I think almost every single problem we face today is because there is a centralization of power. Whether you put Datuk Seri Anwar or another Prime Minister, it's the same. Because power centralizes, and when you are there, you do not want to weaken yourself. What policies come out of decentralizing power? Ensuring that the anti-corruption agency no longer is under the Prime Minister's office, put it under Parliament. Proper checks and balances. Ensuring that equal allocations can be done, because today, allocations are parked directly under the Prime Minister's office. So there's no equal allocations. If you're in opposition, RM0. If you're in government, 4 to 5 million ringgit a year. That's where threats often happen. It means having our very first political funding act. I mean, to be honest, when I see one by one Minister, Prime Minister getting charged, and this is the charge not where money enters your account, you buy houses, etc. It's political fundraising. What is the right method? Today, I'm especially after my case, I'm struggling to know what is the right method. Okay, there's another long issue, but we need to have our very first political funding act. If not, politics in Malaysia can be bought by billionaires and also by foreigners. So we need to find that middle ground with our very first political funding act. But all of this comes into one common theme. Whoever is the Prime Minister, whoever is his government, should not be ultimately in control of everything. We need proper checks and balances, because with proper checks and balances, that's where you'll get good policy. You want to ensure the economy can flourish, ensure that you deal with monopolies and oligopolies, which often buy over whoever is the Prime Minister. Let's not forget, remember previously the same Prime Minister saying, I'm going to dismantle monopolies, I'm going to go after these people. These people are corrupt today. They're all in his good books, all very happy. Status quo is continuing. So it ties all in together to decentralization. democratization and also strengthening of institutions. Because leaders change, political parties change, but institutions in Malaysia remain from one leadership to another.
Now, so it looks like we can't run away from the heavy topic, which is reforms. What is your main qualms about the current government? Because you have been always talking about there's a lack of reformation. I mean, not just you lah. Actually, if you look at the overall papers, everything, excluding your name also, you talk about it. But you're definitely one of the main person who criticizes about it. Why do you think that this current government perception that is giving is that they are not having a very strong will towards reformation?
I'm starting to believe that the only reason they preach reforms before is so that they can win votes to get into power. When they are in power, they realize that implementing reforms would not make them win votes. In actuality, the lack of reforms strengthened them. I'll give a very specific example. Back then, when they were in opposition, they say, remove all the draconian laws. Sedition Act, Akta Sakit Hati. Literally, if I piss you off, I can be charged. It's called Akta Sakit Hati and the MCMC. Remove it. Today, they're using it against all their political opponents. Back then, they say, equal allocation for all. It is a great injustice to give government 4-5 million, opposition nothing. When they're in power today, it's the same thing. Because they're like, oh, why should we give it to them? Then they're going to give it to their cyber troopers. You can't, it's audited. They realize, oh, maybe it's so much power, it's better to have it. Back then, they criticized all the previous political appointments, saying these people are corrupt, these people are evil, these people go after political opponents. Today, they renew it all, and the same problems occur. Still keep it under my Prime Minister's office. It's still all under me. What's the difference? Back then, they say, this billionaire, IPPs, gambling, everything, all evil. They only pay to their political to their political paymasters. They are just political cronies. Today, good books, no problem. Because then they start to realize that in the end, reforms do not pay dividends. But that's what reforms are about. Reforms are not meant to merely be vote winners. Reforms are meant to weaken you so that you do not have the propensity to abuse power, to be corrupted, to empower your political elites and the corporate elites who you so-called fought for before. If reforms are only meant to make you powerful, in the end, you'll only see reforms as a form of political dividend, not for the country, not for institutional reforms, not about leaving a better legacy, better institutions, so that in the end, even if your successor fails, the country will go in the right direction because institutions are strong enough. So yes, people say, why do I keep on talking about it? Because it was this very government today who made the reform agenda the number one agenda. They said because of the lack of reforms, 1MDB happened. Because of the lack of reforms, LCS multi-billion-dollar corruption scandal happened. Because of the lack of reforms, corruption gets normalized. Because of the lack of reforms, your cost of living, your public transportation, the state and quality of education system gets weaker and weaker because of the lack of reforms. Today, when they're in power, they do exactly the same thing, if not worse. We don't have to be emotional about it, just really think about it. What has happened to the multi-billion-dollar LCS corruption scandal, which they said is worse than 1MDB? Nothing. What has happened? The so-called say about 1MDB, biggest issue today, so many versions of discounts. What has happened to all the take down the draconian laws? They are using it against their political opponents, like how they abhorred when it was used against them. State of education. Today, when, not me, World Bank comes out with a report showing that Malaysia spends so much more on education, yet the average Malaysian student is 3 to 4 years behind our Vietnamese peers who spend so much less. Instead of the minister answering about that, you know what the minister answers about? I'm going to investigate my civil servants who are questioning whether this government is serious about increasing wages. Seriously, if it was them in opposition, they would be on the streets. Today, they are doing, if not worse. You can't blame the civil servants for questioning because God knows how many broken promises you've done. Seriously. It just shows the pure lack of focus, Yeah, I think in the end, reforms to them is just a slogan.
Right. On the other hand, as I was speaking to quite a few of these people, they told me that while on the outside they don't look like they're criticizing whatever that's happening, one of the main things that was happening, if you actually also watch Keluar Sekejap, at one point Anthony Loke actually said this, as a whole, we have concluded that we will give the mandate to Anwar to actually negotiate whatever needed to actually maintain a unity government. So therefore, there is also this whole thing about they will not come out and question, especially in media, about a lot of things. It doesn't mean that they've forgotten the reform agenda. So what are your thoughts on this actually?
Maybe I put such high respect on so many people, which I should not have. Because what if I said that in 2020, in the end I just put trust in Tan Sri Muhyiddin, he can let go of Datuk Sri Najib, of Datuk Sri Zahid, of anyone to cling on to power. Never mind, in the end I'll still voice out my concerns internally. I will be hammered. But they can do it. I can't. Their leader can do it. Tan Sri Muhyiddin can't. Their leaders can do it. Ismail Sabri can't. Remember how they hammered MCA when MCA said that they want to fight for reforms from within? I can show a list of things, but to be honest, they can do whatever they want. I mean, they are in government, they do it. But people will not forget. I think in the end, people will remember, especially when crunch time comes. And I know it's coming. You can see how pissed off Malaysians are. State of education is getting from bad to worse. People are not serious. I mean, government is not serious in actually wanting to improve it. They keep on looking at the back. Oh, back then this minister did this minister did that. Okay, then how are you going to make it better? How are you going to make reforms better? Cost of living is increasing. How are you going to make it better? These are issues which, again, if they were in opposition, they'll go guns blazing. If you're in government, if you can't go guns blazing, then show through actions things are getting better. Are they? Is corruption getting better? What if today what you did were done by previous prime ministers? You would be on the streets. You would say that Malaysia is becoming a failed state. The same people who are accusing that Malaysia is becoming a failed state today, muted, not talking about it at all. Fine, they can't, I will. Because this is our future. I'm young, my generation will inherit this country, and I do not want to be cowards and just cower in silence.
Since we have mentioned about government increasing the pay as well, what are your thoughts about it?
I'll be very fair on this. First and foremost, the Malaysian government has not increased the salary of civil servants for approximately 12 years. And people keep on comparing with the private sector. Private sector, on average, has been reviewing. If not every year, at least every 2 to 3 years. Civil service is a very different case. That's one. That's why we keep on saying, why are police officers more susceptible to corruption? Why is the state of a service not that good? Do you know that there are police officers who get paid below minimum wage and expected to live in KL, where the average wage needed is about 2,700 ringgit? This is not Syed Saddiq saying, these are EPF and many other institutes saying, but they're paid below minimum wage. So I think on this area, we need to listen, and I think it is justified, especially if it means targeting the lower income bracket of the civil service. So that's one. Secondarily, I think we must also remember that the government has also withdrawn pensions from new civil servants. This is major, by the way. It's not small. Multi-billion-dollar implications. Not 10 years, every year. So that's second. There's a huge sacrifice there, which I believe is much bigger than actually the increase. That's two. Three, at the same time, the increase in cost of living today. I mean, you look at many different reports showing that even if you want to buy basic fast food, when a lot of Malaysians, they work until late night. The price of items in our mamak restaurants or fast food chains, or even when they cook on their own at home, have increased to a great extent, about 20 to 30%. And this is while we are about to face, third quarter this year, subsidy cuts, petrol, diesel. I mean, it's major. I mean, Parliament have been raising this up many times, and I know that at times you have to be realistic in the cuts. When people are suffering from crushing increase in cost of living, wages are relatively stagnant. Real wages are relatively stagnant when you benchmark it to inflation rates. I think civil service, especially where their wages have not been revised for 12 years, I think that's justified. However, what I would do, and I would like to suggest, add two more things. Number one, also ensure that when it comes to hiring practices and firing practices, you can set up a proper tribunal to make that process a lot more flexible. You can justify, increase it. If it was me, especially for the lower bracket, where they are already paid below minimum wage, increase it even more. Because pretty sure you want to have the best kind of police officers, best kind of nurses. Our nurses today, when they go to Singapore, they get paid the wage of an expert in Malaysia, specialist in Malaysia. So I'm pretty sure it is our common interest to see that, right? Good services. So that's first thing which I like to suggest, that the flexibility. So it's not just a carrot, it's a stick as well. But that stick cannot be done by, I don't want it to be abused. Let's say you have today people who just cannot accept some people criticizing government on real issues. I fire you. It's not about that. It's about people, for example, there are specific cases recorded not just by experts but in court about some teachers disappearing in rural places in Sabah. In the end, students don't get actual school time. That's real. So have that. Or when there are corrupt practices, then they are just moved from one department to another. Right? That's a big issue. Right? So have that. That's one. Secondarily, also linked it to productivity increases. And I think especially with AI and improvement of tech, you can actually measure it more justly than before. I think when you tie it all in together, it becomes a better package. The final part I like to say, and I keep on reiterating, is remove pension schemes for ministers, MPs, including myself. Because you can't expect civil service to sacrifice while you yourself live in your ivory towers. Just after winning one election, you are set for life. We need to walk the talk. And I think for me, it's most painful because I'm young. I'm actually sad on that end, but it's just not right. Singapore did it. Singapore initially had a pension scheme, removed it, increased wages. They didn't just remove pension scheme, they removed it, but with an addition of increase of wages, and just look at the state
That's right.
of Singaporean civil service.
That's right.
We can do that.
I totally agree with you. I think that there are a lot of Malaysian civil servants that are really underpaid. I mean, how on earth do you expect a police officer who is living in KL earning only 1,000 plus ringgit? Bro, it's for survival's sake that you see funny things happening, put it this way. I think they need to be paid well. But I think there are also a certain group of civil servants who doesn't need to be paid well because they're already paid quite not bad because they already hold multiple portfolios. Yeah, I think the biggest problem when I spoke to some of them is the performance monitoring part, where you rightly pointed out. So I heard that maybe you can correct me on this, right?
No problem.
And I heard that basically what happened is that you need to score 80% in for your review. Yeah, if anything less than 80%, you won't be. You are considered not non-performing. And then after that, you will not be entitled for like trainings and blah, 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 those kind of things.
Correct.
You'll be considered like the Cold Storage. So number one, most of the people are scoring 80% above, which in my opinion, it's not realistic at all. You're like saying that everyone has to be straight A student. Anyone less than straight A, you'll be punished by not given tuition. It's like, whoa, I thought if you're scoring below, you need to go
then
tuition, right?
Go.
There's definitely this kind of stuff that makes it really, really weird. So I think I'm nothing against increasing pay. In fact, I think that's probably the best thing because a lot of things that they do directly impact us and will lead to a lot of performance improvement even in private sector.
Correct.
I think there's a real problem in the performance monitoring. And even the recent one, 2024, this year, they said that they're going to change it into a deep system, and whatnot. Again, it starts from 100 and goes by minusing points.
Correct.
Yeah, immediately they know what's the criticism is going to be. They say that, this is not about penalizing, it's about what. But I just think that we have a very weird performance monitoring structure in government. That's pretty much about it. Is that like that?
And that's why I say with AI and tech today, you can revolutionize it. For an example, I have to give credit to the Menteri Besar of Johor, who appears at the immigration counters almost every week complaining about a lot of backlogs and traffic jam in areas where it could be evaded. With AI and tech, you can actually assess how quick you process, monitoring, are they actually there? Do they come in at the exact hour without you needing to have paper and pen? Literally, it's very cheap and affordable. That goes the same in KLIA and many other places. So it's not about punishing, but it's about really knowing who are the ones who are doing the job and rewarding them and those who don't, and then assessing and reassessing. And that must tie in together because today, as we all know, there's a very inflexible system, and that's why you read many cases where even when they are clear-cut case of abuses, misappropriation, abuse of power, they just get transferred from one department to another. Or from Johor, we move you to Kelantan. From Kelantan, we move you to Sarawak. Sarawak, we move you back to Johor. It's a big issue, right? So I think it must all be packaged in together. The reason I keep on stressing on the package is because you do not want to create a system in which you punish those who are good and reward those who are bad. And I've had personal experience working in civil service. There are many good people who actually work until late night with me. I mean, and I've seen how good they work. They don't expect much in return. They love doing their jobs. And these are people who should be rewarded. But in the current system, which is quite inflexible, it's quite tough. I think it's about revamping the system, making it less inflexible, so it's carrot and stick. At the same time, ensuring that it's productivity linked. And with AI and tech, you can make that even easier and more efficient. And then tying it to a reward-based structure to ensure that they feel motivated, they stay in the civil service because they know this is a culture of excellence to move forward. One thing which I just want to share to fellow Malaysians on this matter is undeniably they are bad apples, but please do not lose faith in our civil service overall. Because remember, they are the pillars, the structure of our country. I mean, I know there are complaints here and there, but just imagine we lose faith in our teachers, in our nurses, in our doctors, immigration officers. And it's like, never mind lah. Then the system, to me, for Malaysia to develop country is about system and institution. The institution collapses. Does that mean we should do nothing? Of course not. We must do a lot of things, but it must be packaged together. I've seen how Singapore has done it. When I did my public policy studies in Singapore, I had the privilege of working with many of their top civil servants and seeing how they could bring those shifts, not just rewarding based on experience or age. They really can turbocharge you even if you're young. Actually, a lot of them are very young or mid-age. So I think it's about building that system which rewards the best.
I think it's a very merit-based government there. Even when it comes to the civil service, they are paid quite well. I think I was hearing in certain Scandinavian country as well, they will do it in such a way where if certain jabatan kuasa or community or departments is being formed, they will evaluate it every 5 years, 10 years. If it's not useful, doesn't bring the impact, they will just close it down, reallocate the people. Correct. And even with many conversation in Kenming as well, we were talking about the number of civil servants. He did mention to me that even if you look at the current state, it's not really that we have too many. Yes, that could be arguable. However, there are also many pockets of department that do not have enough staff. But there's that inflexibility of switching around.
Correct.
That is the problem. Absolutely. And reskilling and upskilling is a problem.
Let me just add on to this, because I keep on hearing Malaysia has the most bloated, largest civil service. Guys, data does not lie. The reason why Malaysia looks as if it has the largest civil service is because we include our armed forces in the civil service count, teachers and many others. In other countries, like in the UK, they don't. So they have separate blocks.
Right.
When we add all those blocks in together and we match A to A or apple to apple, it's actually in terms of percentage, it's about the same. Right? And I agree with what Kiaming said. Today we're saying, we're most bloated. But at the same time, when we go to hospital, we complain when there are not enough doctors and nurses. When we send our son or daughter to public education system, which is almost practically free, public education system, very much affordable, we complain, there are not enough teachers. This teacher must take care of 50 students in one class. At times must do so many different work. The teacher must be the janitor, the teacher must be the administrative staff, must also teach, must also mark papers, plan extracurricular activities. Literally, that one teacher is godlike, right? I mean, is doing everything. And we complain about that. So please do not just take because one or two bad experience in specific, for example, over-the-counter problem we have, solve the problem. So I agree with Kiaming said, it's about making that a lot more flexible.
That's right.
So that in the end, those areas which generally need it, put it there.
That's
and
right.
Where we don't, review it. I completely agree. Where KJ said this in his Keluar Sekejap with AI and tech, there are areas where we can make things a lot more efficient and lean. We should do it. At the same time, do not punish everyone. Critical sectors, critical areas, ensure that there are more.
But it's going to be hard when if the performance system is everyone needs to score 80% and above, because everyone is an A player, so you will never know who is really good at one thing.
If you have a system which is broken to begin with, which in the end will reward those who will, fulfill the checklist, but in the end, there are many of those who are critical thinkers, hard workers, above and beyond office hours, who dare to take up risk, but in the end get penalized for succeeding in 10 areas but failing in one. That's the system. System today often rewards us for being risk averse. That's why, put aside civil service, look at our professionals, GLCs, right? And this is where someone just point, one mistake, that means this person is the worst CEO chairman ever. But people forget, for example, he increased the portfolio by 4 times, right? One mistake. So we create a very risk averse environment. No.
That's right. I think this is definitely something that in the civil service, I'm not really sure again because I've never worked there, but based on my conversation and what you've just said, the system itself encourages you to be risk averse.
Correct.
To maintain status quo. Because if you try to improve and you fail, that's going to be worst thing. It's going to be like the end of your career because one penalization is going to be 3 years no training, 3 years no promotion. Like whoa, I was just trying to build a better Excel sheet, so that you can do things faster. Yeah, but now I get penalized with that. Yeah, so I've also seen very, very good civil servants, right? And yes, I've also seen civil servants who are only in there in the morning and by the afternoon they are in their own business. By nighttime, they come back just to say hi and then they walk off. Yeah, so there are all types of people. And at one point, I was just sharing a crazy thought, which again, many of them say that it's likely impossible. Is Malaysia government, actually we support a lot of VC. We have a lot of these funds that are given to VCs to actually invest in startups. But actually you think about it, there are many civil servants who are actually very entrepreneurial. That's my opinion. Because many of them, when I ask them, you buka ni kedai, actually what you do, and then they're like, sebenarnya saya government servant.
That's true.
Right? Why not set up a fund for them to apply so that they can start their own business?
Because currently civil servants
give
are
them
meant
option,
to be
right?
very inflexible and they cannot have their own
even
side business.
Private sector, we have VSS. Why not establish a VSS? It's very contrarian.
That's interesting.
It will piss a lot of people off. But they are I believe,
Yeah.
civil servants who actually really want that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So for example, there are specific cuts, but in return you can do your
Yeah,
side business.
that's right, yeah.
Instead of maintaining this very
That's right.
inflexible approach.
Yeah,
I mean,
or either give them like okay, maybe we do a transition
Yeah.
time, you get a certain amount, and then a transition half so that you can
Yeah.
exit, give you 6 months. If it doesn't work out, come back, reabsorb you,
That's
that kind of
very
thing, right?
interesting.
Yeah. Because the truth is, one of the reasons why they are there in their side business is they also saw a lot of inefficiency,
Yeah.
and they came out of their side business to help
Yeah.
those inefficiency actually. Yeah. So, but this is a side topic altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nonetheless, thank you very much for sharing. Let's go to the final session after this. Hey everyone, I hope you are enjoying the content from this video. If you enjoy content that can help you make better decisions in money and life, well, check out our other channels here as well. Recently, suddenly we saw the news. They said that you're going to do a roadshow together with PN. And definitely the thing is that we know what happened after that, history, the response and so on. But how did you even get embroiled in this whole thing?
I don't like to plan things behind and then lie to the public. That's not me. I mean, I'm not the one who said that they wouldn't work with Zahid or let go of corrupt people and then do something exactly the opposite. I want to be very frank. In opposition, in Parliament, I'm in the opposition bloc. There's no two ways around it. I mean, even for example, in determining who speaks, how much time is given, often these are things which you brainstorm and decide together in the opposition bloc. What issues to prioritize? There's some level of negotiations as well. Common issues which we can fight for example, reforms on equal allocations, separating the role of AG and prosecutor. These are all things which are discussed, debated, and where we can agree on, there's commonalities, we forward it together. Why must that level of collaboration only be limited to Parliament? So does that mean that after Parliament, immediately, when I fight for equal allocations, you fight for equal allocations, you are my enemy, I don't care, I don't want to talk to you? It's not right. I mean, even previously, prior to 2022 election, remember in opposition, there are many different blocks, but it was opposition. There was Warisan, there was Pejuang, there was myself then, and then after MUDA was formed, then I worked directly to get a PH. But before that, there are multiple different blocks. At times, even the blocks vote differently. But where there can be areas of collaboration, we work together. Similarly, in this context, I think where there are areas of common collaboration, where we can send a very clear that this government is failing and we need to come up with a resoundingly powerful force to demand for changes. For an example, checks and balances on subsidy rationalisation. For example, we do not want subsidy rationalisation to then increase cost of living so much that in the end Malaysians don't spend and our overall state of economy gets weaker. This has happened before. For example, today petrol subsidy is 205. Let's say suddenly the government withdraws it completely. Oh, because I've given you other subsidies, I've increased your wages of civil service. Then petrol subsidy at the pump reaches 3 ringgit 20 cents. I mean, I'm telling you, all items will increase. Diesel, 3 ringgit 30 cents. Especially Sabah Sarawak, where they use a lot of 4x4s because roads there are not paved well. So there are areas, pockets where we need to come out with a solid voice. Implement or additional taxes. I will tell you now, I work together with PNMPs to debate with facts and data to challenge government's implementation of high-value good tax. Because previously, they also want to include some other items. Maybe even your iPhone may be included in the high-value good tax. Purchasing of gold. A lot of Malays actually buy gold as a form of investment. And these are not rich Malays. At the same time, another form, SST. Initially, it was announced SST quite broadly. And I said, there will be a cascading effect on the logistics sector. Because logistics from 0 becomes 8%. And logistics what? Is warehousing, ports, your fleets, up to the final destination. Cascading 8%. Man, the prices will increase. And I met up with businesses, small and big. And they said that if the government maintains its policy, final item, you buy a bottle of Coke, right? It may increase by 20%. That's huge. So what did we do? We've debated it with facts in a unison voice. And in the end, what did the government do? Government made a U-turn. Government actually made a U-turn. Government said, okay, we're going to give exemptions. We're going to postpone the implementation. They said that. But when we were strong in pushing for it, equal allocations, we had to be strong in pushing for it. So there are many areas. Will there be areas of disagreements? Of course. I will be firm in defending Malaysia's future in being a multiracial, multi-religious, moderate country which holds the center. I'm proud of Malaysia being a Muslim majority country which defends the center. You know, in the 1990s, 2000s, the Arab world was looking at us. They loved coming here because they knew that while this is a Muslim majority country, we are a truly diverse country. Diversity is our asset, not our liability. You know, they saw that while we are a Muslim majority country, we were on the path to a full-fledged developed country. Wages were decent. Malaysia was going through a path of rapid industrialization. This is a Muslim majority country because the general perception of some people in the Western world is that we're in the backwaters. So we can do it. So I think on that area, I will not compromise. But at the same time, where there can be issues of common interest, we should work together. However, I want to make this very clear. Will it be a PN-only platform or PN-exclusive platform? No. For an example, recently in Parliament, I'll show one more example, where civil society worked hard to challenge government's repressive laws, regressive laws on citizenship. I worked with NGOs. And there were reps of those NGOs who also asked me to speak to PN. So that opposition will reject it. And I did speak. I said, we must reject. Just because there's one good, are we going to increase by having 10 different bad reforms attached together? Some agreed, some don't. But I told them is that if you support it, I won't in opposition. And I will vote against it, even if you support it. But in issues of checks and balances or subsidy rationalization, where we can come up with a unison voice, we should. These are areas. So I think for me, I'm an open book. People may not like it. So, we don't like you working this way. We don't like you working with these people. But at least you know who I work with. And I'm very open in areas where I work with. But remember, the same people who told you before elections, I've warned this before. They won't compromise on corruption. They won't normalize it. They won't drop cases. They won't appoint corrupt people who they call corrupt into cabinet. In the end, immediately at the first instance, they did exactly that. At least you know what you're getting from my side.
Many people also ask this question, right? Oh, so does it mean that Saddiq also can just work with people for a purpose, as long as, although in the past you were the forces that were saying that, oh, no, we need reform, these people no good, like that, right? Yeah, and then now, because of a certain purpose that you're trying to work for, a certain policy you're trying to push through, then you're willing to work with them. Then what's the difference between the ones that are talking about and this one?
There's a substantial difference. Why do you work with different groups of individuals? That's the biggest difference. And let me just draw it in the clearest way possible. It's not about the people, but it's about the reforms and goals and objectives. There are people who say, I don't want to work with these people, but then work with them, sacrifice their principles, drop criminal cases, normalize corruption, but don't get the changes which they want. I'll show a very clear example. Those who said that they are reformists today are the ones, even without being threatened with a clear majority, are the ones who drop criminal cases, are the ones who are normalizing corruption, are the ones who are forgetting all the multi-billion-dollar scandals at first instance. But at the same time, the ones who they accuse to be the most corrupt government in the history of Malaysia, but that corrupt government didn't appoint shady characters into cabinet who were so-called from the court cluster. Those who you oppose so hard, even when they were pushed to the brink of falling, did not compromise by dropping corruption criminal cases. And today you're doing exactly that, if not worse. You see the substantive or substantial difference in that. So in the end, my priority is to ensure that Malaysia remains a multiracial, multi-religious, moderate, reform-minded country which works for the people. Our economy should flourish. We must ensure that while we are a Muslim majority country, we are looked and regarded upon highly. I think it is those differences, substantive differences, which I want to get. Not those who shout reforms, but in the end do exactly the opposite behind closed doors. And when people compare, and seriously, and I told you, when I was facing that moment of hell in court, then I was thinking, wow, I really thought that those who claim reforms before will be the ones who won't compromise, but compromise in first instance. And those who I fought for in 2020 are the ones who, when pushed to a corner, did not compromise. I think actions speak louder than words, and that's where I come up with the term NATO. No action, talk only.
All right, thank you very much, YB, for sharing with us your thoughts and opinion on the whole matter and having an honest conversation about it. For those of you who want to find out more about the information on audit, all these kind of things, everything is online. You can go and check it out. And if you have any questions for YB, you can post it down here in the comments or even reach out to him in his personal directly. Instagram and all, right? Thank you so much. And we look forward to see the kind of Malaysia that we have always dreamed about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.